I have had a lot going on in the last week, so I have not been posting as much as normal. The last video that I did, we were talking about narcissistic mothers and the effect that it has on their daughters specifically. So I'd like to continue that conversation this evening. If you're up for listening to it and wanting to engage, definitely do so. I believe the last thing that we talked about in that last video was the people pleasing, and just to summarize it a little bit more, because Gypsy is going to have her daughter in the public eye, she's not gonna be able to surmise like what is safe and what is not safe, and therefore going into these people-pleasing tendencies, she could find herself in a dangerous relationship dynamic with other people in her own lives. With people-pleasing tendencies, it literally affects every single person that you encounter, because if you don't have healthy boundaries, then you are always searching to give the other person what it is that they want, and that could lead to some really unhealthy codependent relationships and codependent tendencies where the person is, throwing their own morals, integrity, and their own ethics out of the window in order to maintain certain relationships in their lives, because they are unsure of how to set proper boundaries. And because they are unsure of how to set proper boundaries, they don't feel like they are deserving of being heard, which then puts them in a position to constantly appease everyone around them, leaving their own needs largely unmet. And that can be very, very damaging to a child. So I did mention a little bit about difficulty setting boundaries, but because Gypsy and her mother come from this relationship and this fame dynamic where they were always being praised for something or another in the public eye, I'm sure Gypsy herself didn't really understand where the line was and what was right and what was not right in creating those boundaries with her own mother. There were a few people who questioned, was Dee Dee a narcissistic mother? And in my personal opinion, from the videos that I have seen and the pictures that I have seen, I am going to say no. Because I grew up with a narcissistic mother, and affection wasn't really shown in our home. So it was almost really awkward if my mother came in to give me a hug. It was kind of like, why are you touching me kind of situation. And you could almost see and sense that in and even photos that I had taken with my mom, or like videos, you can sense that I am physically not wanting to accept this affection from her because it was so foreign. And you don't see that with Gypsy and her mother. It was almost like there was over affection. Like Gypsy was getting a lot of attention, a lot of love, a lot of hugs, a lot of touching, hand holding, and that sort of thing. And I know that some people said like the hand holding was a way for her mother to kind of squeeze her hand if she would do or say anything wrong. But I really paid attention to those segments where there was hand holding involved, and I never saw her mother squeeze. So I think it was just general affection that her mother had for Gypsy, and showing that Gypsy was like her primary concern from the time that Gypsy was born until the day that Gypsy unalived her own mother. I think that Gypsy was being very well cared for and appreciated in the public and behind the scenes. Now, I was not in that home, but from what I can see between the relationship dynamic between the two of them, it seems like it was very loving both ways. I can also sense in my own opinion that Gypsy was very jealous of her mother giving attention to anyone other than Gypsy. Gypsy had made a mention in one of the docuseries that she had done that whenever Nick came to the movie theater, that her mother had gotten jealous that Gypsy was giving all of the attention to Nick. And I personally, in my own opinion, I believe that it was the other way around. I think that Gypsy was expecting her mother not to like him, not to engage with him, not to want to interact with him. And her mother basically proved her wrong and was very kind, considerate, generous, like she was with everyone else that she came into contact with. And I think that that sent Gypsy over the edge because her personality is nothing like her mother's personality. She's very antisocial and she gets jealous very quickly. So her mother showing Nicholas this attention probably sent her into a rage, and after that encounter, I believe her mother probably experienced some verbal, emotional, and some physical abuse. Now, Gypsy also mentioned that her mother would break her belongings. Breaking somebody else's belongings is a sign of emotional abuse. And again, I don't think that it was Dee Dee that was doing the breaking of things. I think that that was Gypsy's personality and anger coming out in different ways and showing up in all of these different toxic relationship abusive cycles. And when we talk about abusive relationships, we talk about physical abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, and financial abuse. A lot of people don't understand financial abuse, but financial abuse is very prevalent in relationships as well. And it seemed to be that money was a very motivating factor for Gypsy. Somehow this $4,000 that she got away with whenever she unalived her mother was supposed to be like life-changing. So her not having a real aspect on money probably could have led to some weird behaviors going on behind the scenes if she was trying to like steal money from her mom. And we know that she did because she mentioned several times that she had stolen money from her mom to try to run away. I got kind of a little bit off on a tangent. The next thing on my list was anxiety and perfectionism. And this happens a lot in these toxic mother-daughter dynamic relationships because as a child, we are always wanting to be the best versions of ourselves and live up to an expectation that our parents have on us. And if you're never able to reach an expectation that your parent has on you, you're always like moving the goalpost, or the parent is like always moving the goalpost. And there can sometimes be some verbal abuse in experiencing that the child is not worthy, not good enough, and those types of feelings because they're never validated in the things that they do accomplish. It's always about why didn't you accomplish more, even though they are accomplishing a lot. So say for instance, if a child is getting like all A's in school and 1 B, the mother is going to focus on that 1 B rather than focusing on all the other A's, which is going to make that child feel less than and like that B wasn't good enough. Let's continue this in a part 4.